Hello, my name is Charles Lieb, and today we will be discussing Topic 5, Your Second Hack. Objectives. Enumerate your target. Utilize Nikto and OWASP Zap. Compare and contrast the Nikto and Zap. Identify and summarize CSRF and XSS. Utilize Nessus and explore at least 10 possible vulnerabilities identified throughout. Here is the Nmap. This is the beginning of the enumeration. In this one, I was able to find the IP address for the Caltrix 2 machine, and I had to find that using Nmap. On this slide, you can see two different scans performed. We're going to focus on the Nmap SV scan. Using this scan, I was able to see what ports were open for my Caltrix 2 and some services. Some of the ports that were open were 22, 80, 11, 443, and 631, and 3306. Here we see another Nmap scan performed. This one was Nmap P-A scan. This one was able to show several vulnerabilities, some of the services, what operating system it probably is, and the ports again. On this one, this shows the best guess for operating system, and further proving which system I am targeting, making sure that I am in fact attacking the Caltrix 2 system. This also shows the ports once again, and a little bit more information. Here we perform the Nikto scan, Nikto-H. This shows the server Apache, anti-jacking X-frame, XSS, protection header was not defined. We can also see junk HTTP, which can trick into some false positivities for vulnerabilities. It's hard to tell for sure whether or not it was a trick until we do more scans. Here we install the OWASP Zap proxy. Here we see the results of the OWASP or OWASP Zap scan performed. It had 9 different alerts, including SQL injection, absence of anti-SCRF tokens, content security CSP header was not set, missing anti-clickjacking header, server links information via X powered by HTTP response header fields, server leaks version information via server HTTP response header field again, X content type options header was missing, get for post using controllable HTML and emblem attribute potential XSS. We also were covering XSS and CSRF in the class, and we know there was a possible false positive on the HTTPs. But with them being shown here, it might not be a false positive. The compare and contrast for Nikto versus Zap. Nikto was by far easier to install and showed a ton of possible vulnerabilities, while Zap was more difficult to run and only showing a few vulnerabilities, but the vulnerabilities it showed did give a little bit more information than I was expecting, and it seems to be more efficient. But Nikto did provide a lot of information that you could potentially use. They're both good, just depending on what you're really looking for. Hypothesis for Caltrix 2. Based on the results of the various scans, there are a few vulnerabilities that popped up all around. One that was most noticeable was the HTTP, which the issues can be traced back to port 80 most likely. With other issues such as the HTML reoccurring, this still would lead to the most likely issue being port 80. However, knowing it could be a false positive, we should consider other approaches as well. So what is CSRF? It is cross-site request forgery. It refers to an attack that makes the user perform unwanted actions in a web application that has already granted them authentication. What is XSS? Web Application Vulnerability. It allows attackers to compromise user with web applications. It circumnavigates the origin policy, and it returns malicious JavaScript to users once accessed. The attacker can compromise their interactions. This is also mirrored and does not require authentication. This right here shows the Nessus scan. This is the base page of it. Took me roughly 20 minutes to run. Here is the Nessus scan's actual results that it gave me, showing various possible vulnerabilities on different levels. This is an open list of them. Most noteworthy, of course, is again the HTTP and some web server issues as well. Attack vectors I would use and why. I would choose to attack using backdooring. The method is very simple, and if we can find any open access point, we can add ourselves as a user very quickly, or even access the system without being known. We could also choose to exploit SQL injections, and we can bypass authentications. Then we'll have easy access to the system. We can even use privilege escalations, and we've already done this in Caltrix 1, and it was very simple to do. The legal, ethical, and industrial standards when it comes to vulnerabilities disclosure. Legally, these type of attacks would have to be contracted specifically with a company before we can even do anything, before any disclosures can even be allowed. To even run the scans would have to be contracted, and the disclosure of any vulnerabilities would probably be frowned upon and could be very illegal depending on the situation, especially if it's a private company, especially if they contract you to do the work. Ethically, to disclose this information would be like teaching someone how to break into a house. Not a very good idea, and doesn't exactly make you feel good either. Industry standards, however, shows a very different concept. There are companies that test vulnerabilities of public companies, such as Google. And with Google Chrome update, there were some issues that came out with the most recent release. People wouldn't have known about these issues had these companies not tested and publicly disclosed this information. So without those companies disclosing the information for public software, no one would be able to really be safe unless they did the testing themselves, and many people don't know how, and they're not going to pay someone to do it. So what I would say is, if it's a publicly used company and it's not illegal to disclose the information, then we probably should share the information to help people be safer. Here are the two sources I used to figure out what CSRF and XSS were called and what they did and how they functioned. That is the end of the slide. Thank you and have a nice day.